Before the gods had names, before heroes carried swords, before Zeus ruled the sky, before Poseidon shook the sea, before Hades opened the gates of the underworld, there was only one thing: chaos. Not evil, not darkness, not even emptiness. Chaos was the beginning before the beginning, a vast, silent, formless void where nothing had shape, nothing had purpose, and nothing had yet decided what it wanted to become. And then, from that silence, the ancient Greeks imagined the universe being born. First came Gaia, the earth. Then came Tartarus, the deep abyss beneath the world. Then came Eros, the force of desire that pulled creation together. Night appeared. Darkness appeared. The sky was born. Mountains rose. Seas began to move. And suddenly, the universe was no longer empty. It was alive. But Greek mythology was never just a collection of beautiful stories. It was a world of power, fear, betrayal, monsters, revenge, forbidden love, broken families, and gods who were almost too human to be trusted. These myths asked questions people still ask today. Why do powerful people become cruel? Why do children rise against their parents? Why does love sometimes destroy the people it touches? Why do heroes fall? And if fate already knows the ending, are we ever truly free? To understand Greek mythology, we must not begin with Zeus, not with Hercules, not with the Trojan War. We must begin with the first great crime in the family of the gods. The sky and the earth were once joined together. Gaia, the earth, gave birth to Uranus, the sky. Together, they became the parents of the Titans, powerful divine beings who came before the Olympian gods. But Uranus feared his own children. He saw their strength. He saw what they could become. And instead of loving them, he tried to control them. According to the myth, Uranus forced many of his children back into the depths of the earth, hiding them away where they could never challenge him. Gaia suffered. Her children suffered. And from that pain came rebellion. Gaia created a weapon and called upon her children to rise against their father. Only one had the courage to answer: Cronus. Cronus attacked Uranus, overthrew him, and became ruler of the universe. But Greek mythology has a dark pattern. The child who defeats the tyrant often becomes the next tyrant. Cronus had heard a prophecy. One day, his own child would overthrow him, just as he had overthrown his father. And prophecy in Greek mythology is dangerous, because the harder someone tries to escape fate, the faster they run toward it. So Cronus made a horrifying choice. Each time his wife Rhea gave birth to a child, Cronus swallowed the baby whole. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. One by one, the future Olympian gods vanished into their father's stomach. Cronus believed he had defeated destiny, but destiny was waiting. When Rhea gave birth to her youngest child, Zeus, she could no longer bear the loss. She hid the baby away on the island of Crete. Then she gave Cronus a stone wrapped in cloth. Cronus swallowed it, thinking it was his son. But Zeus survived. Hidden from his father, raised in secret, Zeus grew stronger. And when the time came, he returned. Zeus forced Cronus to release the children he had swallowed. The gods emerged alive, powerful, and ready for war. What followed was the Titanomachy, the great war between the Titans and the younger gods. For 10 years, the universe shook. Mountains trembled. The seas roared. The heavens burned with thunder. The old order fought desperately against the new. But Zeus did not fight alone. He freed ancient beings imprisoned in Tartarus. And in return, they gave the young gods weapons that would define the new age. To Zeus, they gave the thunderbolt. To Poseidon, the trident. To Hades, the helmet of invisibility. With these weapons, the Olympians became more than rebels. They became rulers. Cronus was defeated. The Titans were thrown down. And Zeus and his siblings divided the universe between them. Zeus took the sky. Poseidon took the sea. Hades took the underworld. And from Mount Olympus, the new gods ruled over gods and mortals alike. But here is the truth that makes Greek mythology unforgettable. The Olympians were not perfect. They were powerful, but jealous. Immortal, but emotional. Beautiful, but dangerous. They loved like humans. They lied like humans. They raged like humans. The only difference was this: when humans made mistakes, people suffered. When gods made mistakes, the whole world suffered. Zeus became king of the gods, but his rule was never peaceful. He was the god of thunder, law, order, and kingship. But he was also known for desire, deception, and endless affairs. Hera, his wife and queen of Olympus, was powerful, proud, and often furious. But her anger was not simple jealousy. Hera was the goddess of marriage, and Zeus repeatedly humiliated the very institution she represented. Their marriage became one of the greatest contradictions in mythology. Divine power wrapped inside domestic war. Poseidon, Zeus's brother, ruled the oceans. To sailors, he was both protector and terror. One prayer could bring calm waters. One insult could bring storms, earthquakes, shipwrecks, and monsters from the deep. Hades, the third brother, ruled the underworld. But unlike modern depictions, Hades was not the Greek version of the devil. He was not evil. He was stern, distant, unavoidable. Everyone entered his realm eventually. Kings, beggars, warriors, children. Death did not care how rich you were. Death did not care how beautiful you were. Death did not care how loved you were. In Greek mythology, even heroes could not escape the underworld forever. Around these three brothers stood the rest of Olympus. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategy, born from the head of Zeus fully armed. Ares, god of war, violent and bloodthirsty. Apollo, god of music, prophecy, healing, and light. Artemis, goddess of the hunt and the wild. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, whose power could destroy kingdoms without lifting a spear. Hephaestus, the rejected blacksmith god, ugly to some, but unmatched in skill. Hermes, messenger of the gods, clever, fast, unpredictable. Dionysus, god of wine, madness, theater, and ecstasy, reminding the Greeks that civilization always has a wild shadow beneath it. These gods were worshipped, feared, blamed. If crops failed, a god might be angry. If a storm destroyed a ship, Poseidon might have been insulted. If love turned a family into ruins, Aphrodite may have been involved. But perhaps the most important thing about the Greek gods is this: they were not moral examples. They were forces, power-given personality, and humans lived beneath them, trying to survive. One of the most powerful myths about gods and humans is the story of Prometheus. Prometheus was a titan, but unlike many titans, he cared for humanity. He looked at humans and saw weakness. They were cold, fragile, helpless against the world. The gods had fire. Humanity did not. And fire was more than warmth. Fire meant cooking. Fire meant protection. Fire meant metalwork. Fire meant civilization. So Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to mankind. To humans, he was a savior. To Zeus, he was a criminal. Zeus punished Prometheus in one of the most brutal ways in mythology. He had him chained to a rock, where an eagle would tear at his liver every day. And because Prometheus was immortal, his body healed every night, only for the torment to begin again. Every day, pain. Every night, healing. Every morning, punishment. But Prometheus never took back his gift. His myth asks a question that still matters. Is progress worth suffering for? And what happens when knowledge is stolen from the powerful and given to the weak? But Zeus did not stop with Prometheus. According to one myth, he sent humanity another punishment. Pandora. She was created by the gods and given beauty, curiosity, charm, and intelligence. But she was also given a jar and told not to open it. Of course, in mythology, forbidden things are never safe. Pandora opened the jar, and from it escaped suffering, disease, sorrow, labor, and death. By the time she closed it, only one thing remained inside: hope. That detail changes everything. Greek mythology does not say the world is free from suffering. It says suffering is part of human life. But so is hope. Hope remains, even after everything else escapes. Another myth shows how the Greeks explained the seasons themselves. Persephone, daughter of Demeter, was gathering flowers when the earth opened beneath her. Hades emerged from the underworld and took her to be his queen. Demeter, goddess of agriculture and harvest, was devastated. She searched the world for her daughter. In her grief, she stopped the earth from producing food. Crops failed. Fields died. Humanity began to starve. The gods could ignore human suffering for a while, but not forever. If humans died, who would worship them? Eventually, a compromise was made. Persephone would spend part of the year with her mother and part of the year in the underworld with Hades. When Persephone returns, Demeter rejoices and the world blooms. When Persephone descends, Demeter mourns, and the earth becomes cold and barren. Spring and winter, life and death, return and loss. The myth of Persephone is not just an explanation of seasons. It is a story about grief, about a mother losing a daughter, about the way life can disappear underground and still return. But Greek mythology was not only about gods. It was also about heroes. And Greek heroes were not perfect. They were strong, but flawed, brave, but proud, chosen by fate, but often destroyed by their own choices. Take Perseus. His story began with a prophecy. A king named Achilles was told that his grandson would one day kill him. Terrified, he locked away his daughter Danae, hoping to prevent the birth of that child. But fate does not respect locked doors. Zeus reached Danae, and she gave birth to Perseus. Achilles placed mother and child in a wooden chest and cast them into the sea. He thought he had escaped destiny, but destiny floated across the waves. Perseus survived. Years later, he was ordered to bring back the head of Medusa. Medusa's gaze could turn any living person to stone. But Medusa was not just a monster. In later versions of the myth, she becomes something far more tragic. A woman punished by divine cruelty. A victim transformed into horror. A face so feared that no one could look at her and live. That is what makes Medusa unforgettable. She is terrifying, but she is also wounded. She is a monster, but she is also a warning. Sometimes the world creates monsters from people who were already suffering. To defeat her, Perseus could not look directly at her. He used a polished shield, seeing her only through reflection. That detail matters. Some monsters cannot be faced head-on. Some horrors can only be survived through wisdom, patience, and strategy. Then there was Theseus, the prince who entered the labyrinth to face the Minotaur. The Minotaur was half man, half bull, hidden deep inside a maze built so perfectly that no one could escape it. Every year, young Athenians were sent into the labyrinth as sacrifices. Theseus volunteered to enter, but courage alone was not enough. Ariadne, daughter of King Midas, gave him a thread. As Theseus moved through the maze, he unwound it behind him. After killing the Minotaur, he followed the thread back out. Without Ariadne, Theseus would have become another victim. Greek mythology often hides this truth beneath heroic glory. No hero survives alone. The labyrinth is one of the greatest symbols in ancient myth. It is not just a maze. It is fear, confusion, trauma, the place inside the human mind where the monster waits. And the thread is memory, love, guidance, the one fragile thing that keeps a person from being lost forever. Then comes Heracles, known to the Romans as Hercules. He was the strongest hero in Greek myth, son of Zeus and a mortal woman. But strength did not bring him peace. Hera, furious at Zeus's betrayal, tormented him. In one version of the myth, madness led Heracles to commit a terrible act against his own family. To atone, he was forced to perform 12 impossible labors. He faced the Nemean lion, whose hide could not be pierced. He fought the Hydra, a serpent that grew 2 heads for every one cut off. He captured impossible beasts. He cleaned impossible stables. He stole impossible treasures. And he descended even into the underworld. Heracles is remembered for strength. But his story is really about suffering. He is not heroic because life is easy for him. He is heroic because he continues after being broken. Greek mythology understood that strength is not only the power to defeat monsters. Sometimes strength is the power to keep living after your own life has become unbearable. But not every hero fell because of monsters. Some fell because of themselves. The story of Icarus is one of the simplest myths in Greece, and one of the most dangerous. Daedalus was a master craftsman, the brilliant mind who built the labyrinth. But after angering King Midas, Daedalus and his son Icarus were trapped. No ship could carry them away. No road could lead them out. So Daedalus looked to the sky. He built wings from feathers and wax. Before they flew, he warned his son, "Do not fly too low, or the sea will wet your wings. Do not fly too high, or the sun will melt the wax." At first, Icarus obeyed. Then he felt the wind. He felt the impossible become real. For the first time, a boy was flying like a god. He rose higher, and higher, and higher. The sun burned above him. The wax softened. The feathers loosened. And Icarus fell. His story has survived for thousands of years because it says something brutally human. Ambition can lift us above the world. But without wisdom, it can destroy us. To fly is beautiful. To forget your limits is fatal. Another myth explores a different tragedy, not the tragedy of pride, the tragedy of love. Orpheus was the greatest musician in the world. His songs could move animals, trees, stones, and even the hearts of the gods. He loved Eurydice, but Eurydice died, and Orpheus, unable to accept her death, did what almost no mortal dared to do. He went down into the underworld. He crossed into the kingdom of Hades. He stood before the rulers of the dead, and he played. His music was so beautiful that even Hades and Persephone were moved. They agreed to let Eurydice return to the world above on one condition. Orpheus must not look back until they both reached the light. So he walked, step by step, out of darkness, toward life. Behind him, Eurydice followed. But he could not hear her clearly. He could not be sure. Was she really there? Had the gods tricked him? Was he walking alone? Near the end, doubt became stronger than trust. Orpheus turned around, and in that moment, Eurydice was lost forever. The myth is devastating because Orpheus does not fail because he lacks love. He fails because he loves too much to endure uncertainty. He looks back because he cannot bear doubt. And by looking back, he loses the future. Greek mythology also warned against desire through the story of King Midas. Midas was offered a wish. He asked that everything he touched turn to gold. At first, it seemed like the greatest gift imaginable. A branch became gold. A stone became gold. A table became gold. Midas believed he had become the richest man alive. Then he tried to eat. His food turned to gold. He tried to drink. His water turned to gold. And in some versions, when he touched someone he loved, even that person turned to gold. The gift became a curse. Midas got exactly what he wanted. And that was the horror. Greek mythology understood that not every desire should be fulfilled. Some dreams become nightmares when they come true. Then there was Narcissus, a young man so beautiful that others fell in love with him. But Narcissus loved no one. Until one day, he saw his own reflection in the water. He stared at it, desired it, could not leave it. But the image could never love him back. So Narcissus wasted away beside his own reflection. His myth is ancient, but it feels painfully modern. It is beauty without connection. Self-love becoming. Self-destruction. A person trapped by an image. The Greeks did not need phones, mirrors, or screens to understand the danger of becoming obsessed with yourself. They already knew. And then there is Oedipus, one of the darkest stories ever told in Greek myth. A prophecy said Oedipus would kill his father and marry his mother. His parents tried to escape the prophecy. Oedipus tried to escape it too, but every choice made to avoid fate pushed him closer to it. Without knowing the truth, Oedipus killed his father on the road. Without knowing the truth, he married his mother and became king. When the truth was finally revealed, the horror was unbearable. Oedipus is not frightening because he is evil. He is frightening because he is blind to the truth of his own life. In Greek mythology, fate is not always a chain you can see. Sometimes fate is the road you choose because you think you are escaping. And then comes the greatest war in Greek myth, the Trojan War. According to legend, it began not with armies, but with beauty, pride, and a golden apple. At a divine wedding, the goddess of discord threw an apple marked for the fairest. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite each claimed it. Paris, prince of Troy, was chosen to judge. Each goddess offered him a reward. Hera offered power. Athena offered wisdom and victory. Aphrodite offered the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris chose Aphrodite, and that choice led him to Helen, queen of Sparta. Whether Helen loved Paris, was taken by him, or became a symbol larger than herself depends on the version of the myth. But the result was the same. Greece went to war with Troy. For 10 years, heroes fought outside the walls of the city. Achilles, Hector, Odysseus, Ajax, Agamemnon, Menelaus. Names that would echo for thousands of years. But the Trojan War is powerful because it is not simply good against evil. Hector, prince of Troy, is not a monster. He is a son, a husband, a father, a man fighting for his home. Achilles, the greatest Greek warrior, is not purely noble. He is glory, pride, rage. And when his beloved companion Patroclus is killed, Achilles returns to battle transformed. He is no longer just a warrior. He is grief turned into violence. He kills Hector outside the walls of Troy, then drags his body behind his chariot. It is a moment of victory, but also a moment of moral collapse. Because Greek mythology understood something modern stories sometimes forget. A hero can win and still lose himself. But Troy did not fall because of strength. Troy fell because of deception. The Greeks built a giant wooden horse and left it outside the city as if it were an offering. The Trojans believed the war was over. They believed the Greeks had sailed away. They believed the gift meant victory. So they dragged the horse inside their walls. But hidden within the horse were Greek soldiers. That night, while Troy slept, the warriors emerged. The gates were opened. The Greek army returned. And the city burned. The Trojan horse became one of history's most famous warnings. Not every gift is a gift. Not every victory is won on the battlefield. And not every enemy comes with a sword in hand. After Troy fell, another hero began a journey that would define the meaning of struggle. Odysseus. He was not the strongest Greek, not the fastest, not the most beautiful, but he was the cleverest. His journey home after the Trojan War became the Odyssey, one of the greatest adventure stories ever told. He faced the Cyclops Polyphemus. He escaped by calling himself nobody. He blinded the monster and hid beneath sheep to flee the cave. But his cleverness had one weakness: pride. As he sailed away, Odysseus revealed his true name. Polyphemus called upon his father, Poseidon. And from that moment, the sea itself became Odysseus' enemy. He sailed past the sirens, whose songs could lure sailors to death. He passed between Scylla and Charybdis, choosing between two forms of destruction. He faced Circe, who turned men into animals. He descended to the land of the dead. He lost ships. He lost men. He lost years. For 10 years, Odysseus wandered. But the Odyssey is not only about monsters. It is about the long road home, about temptation, about identity, about whether a person can survive war and still return to who they were before. Achilles represents glory. Odysseus represents survival. Achilles wants his name to live forever. Odysseus wants to go home. And in that difference, Greek mythology gives us two visions of heroism. One burns bright and dies young. The other suffers, adapts, and endures. And this is why Greek mythology survived. Not because people still believe Zeus throws lightning from the clouds. Not because sailors still blame Poseidon for every storm. But because the stories still feel true. Cronus swallowing his children is the fear of losing power. Zeus overthrowing his father is the rise of a new generation. Prometheus stealing fire is the price of progress. Pandora opening the jar is the danger and beauty of curiosity. Persephone descending into the underworld is grief, change, and return. Medusa is the pain of being turned into what others fear. Theseus entering the labyrinth is the courage to face the monster inside the maze. Heracles performing his labors is endurance after tragedy. Icarus flying too high is ambition without wisdom. Orpheus looking back is love destroyed by doubt. Midas turning everything to gold is desire becoming a curse. Narcissus staring into the water is beauty trapped by itself. Oedipus trying to escape fate is the terrifying idea that destiny may use our own choices against us. Achilles raging outside Troy is the destructive power of wounded pride. Odysseus trying to get home is every human being trying to find their way back after life has changed them. Greek mythology is not clean. It is not simple. It is not a world where good always defeats evil. It is a world where gods behave badly. Heroes make terrible mistakes. Love causes wars. Pride destroys kingdoms. And fate waits patiently for everyone. That is what makes it powerful. The ancient Greeks looked at the world and saw beauty, terror, order, chaos, and mystery. They did not explain life by making it easier. They explained life by making it unforgettable. Because behind every god is a human fear. Behind every monster is a human problem. Behind every hero is a human wound. And behind every myth is a warning. Power can corrupt. Pride can blind. Love can destroy. Beauty can deceive. Knowledge can come with punishment. Gifts can become curses. Fate can be delayed, but not always escaped. And even the gods, sitting high above the world on Mount Olympus, were never free from jealousy, rage, desire, and fear. In the end, Greek mythology is not only about the ancient past. It is about us, our ambition, our mistakes, our hunger for meaning, our fear of death, our hope that suffering is not the end of the story. The Greeks gave their gods thunderbolts, tridents, helmets, wings, and golden thrones. But they gave them human hearts. And that is why their myths never truly died. Because gods can fall, heroes can break, monsters can return, cities can burn. But a powerful story can survive everything. It can survive the collapse of temples. It can survive the fall of empires. It can survive thousands of years. And still, somehow, speak to us. Greek mythology began with chaos. But it did not end there. From chaos came gods. From gods came heroes. From heroes came legends. And from legends came stories that still shape the way we understand courage, love, power, suffering, and fate. That is the true power of Greek mythology. It does not show us perfect gods. It does not show us perfect heroes. It shows us something far more dangerous, something far more honest. It shows us ourselves. If you enjoyed this journey through Greek mythology, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which mythological story you want to see next. Because the world of ancient myth is far from over. There are still gods to uncover, monsters to face, heroes to follow, and legends waiting in the dark.